where in this world, but there are only, I think, 9 countries where the speakers are not members of parliament. In most jurisdictions, the speakers are members of parliament. And where the speakers are members of parliament, wherever speakers are members of parliament, those speakers are entitled to vote. In all countries, where the speakers are members of parliament, they are entitled to vote. And the foremost authority on parliamentary practice, and I believe those of you who are here with us as media persons for the various media houses, I plead with you, avail yourself of the foremost authority of parliamentary practice. And that person is Kyei-Mensah. Please check the 25th edition of Kyei-Mensah, the treatise on the law, privileges, proceedings, and usages of parliament. Go and check. In all the established democracies, where speakers are members of parliament, they do cast their votes. So, the US, for instance, is the flagship of presidential systems in the world. All legislatures, the speakers are members of parliament, and they are entitled to vote. The federal parliament, the House of Representatives, the speaker is Right Honorable Nancy Pelosi, who visited us about 3 years ago. Nancy Pelosi is entitled to vote. Check Kyei-Mensah. So you go to our own sister country, Nigeria. All the state parliaments, all the speakers are members of parliament. They vote. At the federal level, in Abuja, the House of Reps, the speaker is entitled to vote. Now, in the Westminster System, the UK is a flagship of Westminster Systems. And the Speaker of the Parliament of UK, of England, also retains a voting power because they represent constituents. And you can't deny and deprive constituencies and constituents of a vote as expressed through their representative, the member of parliament. It is the reason why the speakers who are members of parliament do vote. In Canada, in India, in Australia, in South Africa, in New Zealand, in India, which practice Westminster systems, the speakers, because they are members of parliament, do vote. So, our speaker is not entitled because our speaker is not a member of parliament. Our speaker is one of the few speakers who are not members of parliament. So, for instance, in the ECOWAS parliament, all the speakers in the sub-region are members of the ECOWAS parliament, and indeed they lead their country delegations. It is only Ghana's parliament which is deprived, because our own speaker, because he's not a member of parliament, cannot go to ECOWAS parliament. And there's a reason why some of us have been canvassing that we should amend the constitution to have the situation where our speaker will be elected from us as a member of parliament and continue to serve as a member of parliament, like the Honorable Duajaho. If we had amended the constitution at the time, he could have continued as a member of parliament. So it's been the advocacy of some of us. Now, but be that as it may, our speakers are not, because they are not members of parliament, they are not entitled to vote, because they don't represent constituencies and constituents. But the deputy speakers do represent constituencies and constituents. And that is why they can't vote. And indeed, when it comes to decisions, Article 104.1 is the ultimate. It says, as otherwise provided in this constitution, Matters in Parliament shall be determined by the votes of the majority of members present and voting, with at least half of all the members of Parliament present. Why is 1041 providing some exceptions? It says, except as otherwise provided in this Constitution. Matters in Parliament shall be determined by the votes of majority of members present and voting, with at least half of all the members of Parliament present. You see, there are instances where you require 2/3 of members to be present to support a vote. For instance, votes of censure. And indeed, if it relates to the Speaker, if you want to remove the Speaker, you don't require 1/2. Somebody said 2/3. Did I hear somebody say 2/3? Let me read the relevant article. Let me read the relevant article. You read article 95. Article 95. 2D. It provides, the Speaker shall vacate his office if he is removed from office by a resolution of Parliament supported by the votes of not less than 3/4. So in the removal process of the Speaker, it calls for 3/4. It's not half. It's not 2/3. So these are the exemptions that are provided for under Article 104. And in some places, 2/3. You want to remove the president, it's not 3/4, it's 2/3. The votes of censure of ministers is 2/3. If you want to vary maybe an authority that's given to a person to grant a waiver, if you want to vary it, you require 2/3. But the Speaker's is the most stringent. You require 3/4 of all members to do that. These are some of the exceptions.